Anna, what is one word of advice you would give to a caregiver who's just starting their journey?
More than one word, right? So I think the biggest thing I've learned that from my personal experience and from interacting with other people at different points in this journey is it's really easy to lose the sense of who you are during all of this. And it's easy for HD to consume every part of your life. And so my advice is to really focus on what you need as an individual and to not feel guilty about actually doing those things and taking those steps. And just knowing that your HD loved one wants you to live a fulfilled and happy life. And so sometimes prioritizing yourself during that can be really hard, but I think it's one of the most important things.
Jamie, why did I say one word? How did I get this up? And every single one of them. I'm sorry, guys. I did this really late, obviously at night. What is some advice you would give to someone who is gene positive?
I think the one thing I would say to somebody that's gene positive or pre-manifest is you are your own person, and this disease has certain things, like certain progressions of things, but there's nowhere in the disease progression that you completely lose yourself. Holding on to that is just so important, and we will not live the same story, the same narrative exactly as our parents or our family members or our friends. Things are constantly changing and evolving, and for anybody that knows they're gene positive and they're not connected in, that would be the other thing I would say is definitely find a support system. Reach out to Anna and I or Marianne or any other social worker. Let us connect you into people, because as Anna talked about isolation, it will make you go crazy when you are isolated and if you are gene positive. You will feel like you are symptomatic. You will question. At one time, I could not work the TV and thought, HD is hit. It's hit, Ethan. You have never been able to work that TV. I was committed, waiting for everybody else to catch up. And he was absolutely right. I've never been able, I still can't work that TV right now. We all laugh about it because we get it. But like when you're alone and you don't have anybody that's going through that, you just feel really lonely. And that isolation, it can just really negatively enhance the quality of life. So definitely connect in. If I'm too scary, because like I am an in-your-face person, there's Anna and Marianne, who are much more calm and docile. Well, there's Anna, who's much more calm and docile. Reach out to her. You know, we're here.
Marianne, what do you feel has been the most rewarding thing that has come into your life for being a social worker in the HD space?
I'm already trying to even finish answering the question. It's really hard to go back and forth to my personal and professional hat. And I can't help but wear my personal hat all the time. So when one of the most impactful things is anybody I've interacted with, I can't help but carry with me all the time and make sure. That's my reason why I think that maybe I'm not doing a good job or I need some extra strength and I can't find it within myself. I remember those people. I remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's what gets me through.
So this one, we're just gonna, each stage, you guys will hit one of them. We talk about stages of HD. We use words like pre-manifest or prodromal, early onset, mid-stage, and late-stage HD. As a social worker in the HD space, what are some cases that you find are more prevalent within these specific stages? We'll start with Anna. Prodromal, pre-manifest.
There's a lot. I think future planning has everything. Planning a career, deciding about graduate school, or just anything related to work and finances, and trying to figure out what your future is going to look like in that sense, as well as family planning, the impact that your genetic status has on potential children that you have or want to have. And I think there's this, I'm just going to plug the PPEM group again. So for anyone who is at risk or genetically positive and considers themselves pre-symptomatic or early manifest, early stages, join this group. And I think a lot of the topics that come up there are really just like how to get through the day-to-day challenges of being someone who medical professionals don't consider symptomatic and don't really interact with much. Trying to maintain a house and a family and a career or a job, and just wondering almost all of the time if the things that you're struggling with, if it's depression or executive dysfunction, is that apathy is a huge one. Thank you. Trying to figure out if that's just normal human things that you're experiencing or if that's HD sneaking in. And so we have a lot of conversations about that and how to cope with that. And I think it's really important because there's not another space for people in this part of the community to have that support.
Okay, and we are Marianne. Early onset and mid-stage HD.
You just say the question just so I don't go outside.
Say, oh, the question again? So yeah, sure. We talked about stages of HD, like in the early onset or mid-stage, what do you find would you get the most calls about, most prevalent?
For early to mid, I know stages are really important, but I really dislike them because everybody's disease progression is so different. But in that time, it's, the future plan, we hope everybody does, right? But actually doesn't happen. So we're always in crisis mode. So it's when somebody needs Social Security disability, but they haven't worked in many years, or they have resources available, so they aren't able to, they're not eligible for certain resources. It's why didn't you do that? But it's always, we have to have an answer for right now, right? And being in that present moment. A lot of the calls that I do get are that their loved one doesn't want assistance or doesn't want help, or maybe is getting into trouble or being more physically or emotionally abusive. Those are a lot of those early to mid stages that, like, unfortunately, there's not much if they're not willing to go to a HD clinic or go see somebody to receive that assistance. Sometimes it's getting to that point where you have to call 911, and it's having those conversations over and over again with family members. That's not a good answer. And I know I had to do it for my mom and other family members, and I didn't like that answer, but that's unfortunately just what it is. And it's just getting them through that as caregivers or loved ones.
And Jean, late stage.
I think with late stage HD, a lot of it is there's a lot of fear of the services that are out there, like palliative care and hospice and DNRs and living wills, advanced directives and things of that nature. And so it's a really hard stage to navigate because a lot of people associate, if I act and get these services in place, then I am in some way like accepting my death or like working toward my death. And so those late stage services are often associated with death. But recently navigating that with my own father, I worked with some nurses when I was a medical social worker, and one of them said, "No, Jamie, you are helping your dad carry out his right to self-determination for what he wants to do with the rest of his life. You're not trying to force him into death. You don't want to lose your dad. You just want to support him in that. And that is okay." And just having that space to not feel like I was like being disloyal to my father, and honoring his wishes, it just really helps with my whole end of life experience with my dad. And so there's a lot of people that are trying to figure that out. Like, where does palliative care fit in? Where does hospice fit in? Hospice varies from state to state. And so it can be difficult because access to medications and the normal providers and things like that. That's definitely something that is talked about, I think, a lot in the ambulance. And then also there's a lot of, when is my loved one going to die? Like, how is my loved one going to die? And really comparing those things. And as Marianne said, it's just so different from person to person. There's other comorbidities. There's just different access to healthcare, different choices and all of that. It's very unique to the person.